Hey guys, it's Vince and Drew with Power 5 Fanatics coming at you about to go into week 10 of the college football season, and we're going to
Yes.
go over our picks against the spread. And surprisingly, this week it hasn't worked out like this yet, but we've got almost identical picks, so they just got to be right. We're going to
Or
start
they're going
off,
to be all wrong, which is going to be.
would be embarrassing,
Yeah.
guys. We'll start off with, I guess, the biggest game of the week.
The biggest cocktail party.
The Georgia-Florida line war.
Yeah.
Florida-Georgia line, whatever you want to call it. Florida is getting 6.5 points, so that's a pretty big line when you get right down to it, because this is
Yeah.
a neutral field. And
Especially when you put the on-the-field results factor into it. It seems like these two teams are pretty close right now.
Yeah, it really is a lot of points, and that's one reason we both agree Florida is going to cover.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure Georgia's going to win outright. I mean, I'm kind of thinking Florida might win this game.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting in that, just for that one thing alone, is that Georgia's offense has not, I think in the first part of the season they were averaging like 45 points a game. But the last two games, they've scored a total of 38. So
Yeah, they've been very shaky.
yeah,
And Fromm's looked better early in the year than he has lately. But, you can throw all the records out and everything else. This is the big
it's a big
big rivalry. And it's more than likely going to determine the SEC East,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah, for sure.
Moving on, another war back in the Midwest, though, Kansas State and Kansas. The Sunflower War.
Sunflower rivalry.
Whatever it's called.
Yeah, I think they call it something like that.
Yeah, it's a sunflower rivalry. But anyways, in years past, we were looking at how long they've been playing, which is well over 100 years. And, not exactly two college football powerhouses, but they do keep things interesting. And this year, for sure, they've kept things interesting. Both teams have overachieved so far. And Kansas is actually getting 6 points in. They're playing in Lawrence.
Yeah.
And if you look at a map, Lawrence and Manhattan really aren't far from each other. You got Kansas City, and then to the west of there, I believe, is Lawrence, and then after that is Manhattan, but the Little Apple. But they're all just right there on the highway, all really close. So a lot of the same fans there, friends and family are going to be on different sides on this one. But we like Kansas getting the points at home. I mean, they've been very resilient. They don't look all that great at times on offense, but they just seem to pull the game out when they need to, like they did last week against Texas Tech, Kansas. And they've looked well. They took Texas to the line, down to the wire too.
Well,
so. And of course, Kansas State. What can you say? I mean, very balanced. Run the ball great.
They seem to be really well coached too. This is probably the best Kansas team we've seen in
since Mangino,
back in
2009 maybe
7 through 9.
Yeah.
They're
It's definitely the best team they got.
I mean this rivalry over the past 10 years hasn't really been that close. Kansas State has.
Actually, I'm probably looking forward to watching this game more than any of the other ones. Actually.
Yeah, I just went and looked back at this rivalry, and Kansas actually owns the rivalry over the period. I think they started playing in like early 1900s, but the past 10 years, of course, haven't been very close because Kansas State, since Bill Snyder got there, definitely he changed the face of Kansas State, and then they had him there for the past another.
Well, he left,
5,
and then he came back.
Yeah,
but even during the 4 or 5 years he wasn't there.
Ron Prince, was that the?
Yeah, they weren't near as good, but Kansas just was terrible.
Terrible. But this is the best Kansas team we've seen since then, and it's in Lawrence, and I feel like this is for the pride of the state. Both teams had a great week last week.
So we've really hyped up the Kansas State game. So
I'm excited.
Make sure you don't miss it.
I think it'll be fun. But we got Kansas covering the 6.
Then we're heading out west. Pretty big matchup here. Utah, one of the favorites in the Pac-12, playing in Seattle against Washington, formerly one of the favorites in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Washington's getting 3 points, and we both like Washington covering there. I think Utah will win the game, but honestly, I think it's going to be 31-30, something like that. Utah's defense has played excellent lately, but Washington has shown at times they can put some numbers up.
Yeah.
And I think it will be high scoring. I don't think it'll be low scoring.
I also think it'll be a close game. I think Utah's a better team than Washington, obviously, at this point in the season.
I think it's just going to come down to the
But-
wire, though. Maybe even overtime.
Washington's kind of like, I don't know, one of those well-coached teams that you just don't ever want to overlook. I mean, they kind of remind me of like Oklahoma State or maybe Iowa State or some of these teams where, or let's just say, someone like, I don't know, Indiana or something. Just someone that can kind of come out to bite you if you're not looking. And Utah's been kind of really showing out these past several weeks. I feel like these past couple weeks they've been more impressive than Oregon in the Pac-12.
I think I agree. They have last couple weeks.
But we saw Washington take Oregon down to the line, of course, and that
playing,
was in
playing at
Seattle
home.
as well.
Washington's just they're inconsistent. I think this is going to be a week when they try to pull together. I do think Utah's going to barely win though, but we like Washington getting the points. An AAC matchup like that has significant relevance.
Definitely significant, yeah.
And in the AAC race, SMU playing at Memphis. Memphis is giving SMU 6. We both like the underdog here. Well, this seems to be an underdog board. SMU's shown they can score with you. The defense hasn't played great, but hey, 45-40, I could see that. I mean, this could be a pretty high scoring game.
Yeah, I'm picking SMU here. I'm surprised that they're not favored. I know Memphis is one of the better Group of 5 teams. I think we got them either right on the outside looking at our
Yeah, I think we got them at 25.
Or we have them. I think they are at 25. So we obviously have a lot of respect for Memphis, and in that since that's the case, I do think Memphis is going to win this game. I think that they're going to get.
I think SMU is going to win.
You do think SMU is going to win? Yeah, that's fair. I mean, they've got a hot streak going. I think Memphis is going to catch them here. I think, at home.
They're going to end the streak.
But I do think SMU will cover the 6. I think it'll be something kind of like last week when SMU played Houston, like 34-31. I think it'll be something like that, and Memphis will win the game.
Moving back out west, the second biggest Pac-12 game of the week.
Some big Pac-12 games
yeah,
this week.
This is another one with the favorite of the bunch. Oregon playing in LA at the Coliseum against USC. USC is getting 4.5 points. Again, I don't know why we're on the underdog run, but we are. I like Slovis. I like Coach Helton, what he's doing. Sometimes it's ugly, but they get it done. They've been very resilient this year. Oregon, after their 5 games after they played Auburn, where they gave up, I think, 5 points a game.
5 points a game.
In the last 2 weeks, they've given about 60 up. And so against good offenses, it looks like they're going to struggle. And USC is definitely a good offense right now. So I think it's going to be pretty high scoring, but I think Oregon will win. I just don't think they're going to win by much. A field goal maybe.
I'm excited to see the wide receiver versus secondary battle here for USC's wide receivers versus Oregon's secondary, because I do think that definitely USC's strength is their wide receivers
and their quarterback
with Pittman and Slovis. Yeah, I mean, able to get them the ball. But Oregon's secondary is really good in my opinion, and so that'll be an interesting battle there. I got USC covering at home because they've kind of shown me throughout the past several weeks that you might beat us, but you're not going to beat us good. I mean, we're going to hang in there with you. We're going to fight back, and we're going to fight for our coach too.
That's been pretty much them the entire season. You know, after they lost to
BYU.
After that, they pulled up their bootstraps and they got going. And really, they played pretty good since then.
Well, and they're leading their division right now.
Yeah,
I mean they need
I think they're 3-2.
They have to win this game.
Yeah.
Utah, of course, is rooting for themselves to win and Oregon to win as well. But I mean, they're in the front of their division, so pretty impressive what they're doing. I mean, Utah's a great team, and they beat them. So it'll be interesting to see in this game what happens as well.
Moving on to some of the older viewers would remember when this was probably the matchup of the entire season.
Yeah.
Miami, Florida State, wide right. Was it wide right or wide left? I think it was wide right. That happened about 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
Drew wouldn't remember that. That was in the 80s when Florida State kept losing on a last-second kick. And but there was some historic if you're a kid of the 80s, you know what I'm talking about. There were some historic battles there. It's lost a lot of its luster this year, especially. Like this may be the worst both teams have been at this point of the season in a long time. But Florida State, they are playing in Tallahassee. Florida State's getting basically the home field advantage of 3 points, and I think Florida State's going to cover, and Drew agrees.
Yeah.
Just from my standpoint, it seems like Florida State's been a little more consistent and a little bit better offensively than Miami. Miami's been mainly about defense this year, and they've actually played pretty decent at times, but
I agree.
they have a hard time scoring, Miami does.
Yeah, Miami doesn't have any offense at all. I mean, they're really bad.
They get turnovers, they make stops, but their offense is just anemic. It's
and
not
I know
good.
that the Florida State faithful are almost ready to, get rid of Dan Enos, the offensive coordinator, after this is, I think, his first season with Manny Diaz. They're already kind of ready to get rid of him.
Right.
And part of that is just because they're not able to score any points. They have had a great defense this year. But Florida State, they're not a very great team by any means, but, I think they'll cover here at home. I just think they're going to put up a little bit. I think it'll be like 14-10, or it might be a little, maybe,
Yeah, it probably
maybe
will be.
17-10.
I think you're right. I think it's going to be low scoring.
Yeah, and they'll cover barely.
Back to the Big 12, TCU in Stillwater against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is also giving the home field advantage, minus 3 points. So Oklahoma State favored by 3 at home. We both like Oklahoma State. Lately, their offense has kicked it up a gear. They still struggled defensively. TCU has been inconsistent. Obviously, they had their biggest win of the season against Texas. Last Saturday. And so that's the best they've looked all year by far, TCU. So you never know what you're going to get out of the Frogs. Oklahoma State has been a lot steadier, in my opinion, and I think they're just going to be able to outscore them.
Yeah, I'm not super confident on this one. This one could go either way. I feel like Vince said, the Oklahoma State is favored here at home. The thing that scares me here is it seemed like TCU figured something out on offense last week with Max Duggan. He's a freshman quarterback, and he's had his woes at quarterback throughout the season. Last week, he looked really good, and that could have just been the
I remember where he's from. He's from
he's from
Iowa.
Indiana, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew he wasn't from Oklahoma or Texas. I knew he was back up in the Midwest.
Yeah, he's
somewhere.
from somewhere up in the Midwest.
Yeah, I don't know how he ended up Oklahoma State, but they're glad he's there because he did play great. I mean, he's just a savvy. He just makes plays. I mean, he's one of those kind of guys.
And, the drive I watched.
He doesn't look all that great as an athlete, but he's a great. I mean, he just got a great football mind.
Yeah, he does. And I watched most of this game, and the drive that really impressed me was it was in the fourth quarter. I think there was like 6 minutes left, and TCU was up like 30-27 on Texas, and Texas had a lot of the momentum, but TCU, they got back, I think it was a 3rd and 14, and he tossed this beautiful pass right into, right on the corner, right on the, edge of the out of bounds, first down. And I think he did that again on a 3rd and 11 or something.
Yeah, that was
like
pretty much.
That was an impressive
pretty much game
drive.
over at that point.
Yeah, it was like a 9-play, 65-yard drive or something like that.
I think that's one where he runs in for the touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was pretty much a game over.
I mean, he did it.
No,
at
I
the very
agree.
end,
It is probably going to be high scoring, like very high scoring. I just think Oklahoma State's got up more together.
Of course,
than
they
TCU
beat a
does.
solid team last week. Oklahoma State beat
they're-
Iowa State.
Yeah,
so-
they're both looking good. They're both trending upwards. Then back to the Big Ten, we got Northwestern at Indiana. Indiana's giving a big number at home, -11. We both like Indiana to cover. I mean, Indiana's one of those teams. They kind of remind me of K-State in the Big 12, or somebody like maybe Colorado into the Pac-12. They can surprise people, and they can upset some people occasionally.
Yeah.
And Northwestern has just been pitiful this year, and I think it's going to be a blowout for the Hoosiers.
I'm kind of waiting on the Northwestern team we're used to come out with Pat Fitzgerald. You know,
We actually got Indiana on our top 25 too this week.
yeah, we do.
The AP poll didn't.
I think
have
they're
them.
deserving. I mean, they're
I do
6-2, right? And they're
Yeah.
one of their losses.
And
was,
they've been feisty. They lost to Ohio State, but everybody loses to Ohio State.
yeah, it was like 52 to 10. I mean, that just looks good for Ohio State at this
Yeah.
point. That's not really that indicative of
Now, Indiana's been they've been feisty all year long and played above where you would think they would be at.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to blow them out. I think it's going to be a big win for the Hoosiers. We both got them covering the 11.
I could see it being 35 to 10 or something.
Yeah,
I mean, I really
easy.
could, because Northwestern's got a historically bad offense. I don't know what's going on with them. Their defense is pretty good, but they can't stay on the field, so their defense is giving up a lot of points to people. So, yeah, I like Indiana here, too. I think they're a legitimately good team.
I do too. Obviously they're going to go to a bowl.
And they're in
game
our
at
top
this point.
25, you know. So, yeah, I think they're going to cover
Our
the
only
11.
ACC matchup, Virginia.
Well, besides the Miami-Florida State one.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, our second ACC matchup, Virginia at North Carolina. Mac Brown's given 2 points, and the Tar Heels, and we both like the Tar Heels to cover that. He seems to he's been a good motivator this year, and has got them to play above maybe where their skill level's been in some games, and I think maybe this will be another one because this is a pretty big game. I mean, both teams are in their respective divisions they're both in the race.
Yeah.
So this is a biggie, and I think North Carolina will win and they'll cover.
North Carolina reminds me of this year's Kansas in the Big 12.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same situation. Brought back an old coach, a
Yeah, no
national
joke.
title-winning coach.
And then they got better.
And let's be honest, who thought that North Carolina was going to be any good this year?
Same way with Kansas.
I didn't, and Kansas too.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, it's a good analogy,
to
Drew.
think that-
I think it's like perfect because they're both players in their conferences.
and they don't have a lot of depth
Yeah.
at all. I mean, they're definitely not like at a championship level depth, but they're competing in their conferences.
Yeah.
And I know that the ACC is not very good this year. We've talked about that on this show. But North Carolina's,
Hey, they're
part
out
of
of
the
conference win with South Carolina.
and they beat
That-
South. I mean, it's
that
a
was
huge
week
win.
1. Yeah,
Huge
that was
win.
a big win.
So, anyways, I think North Carolina can beat a team like Virginia. I do respect Virginia. I think they got a great quarterback with Bryce Perkins. But, yeah, North Carolina's just scrappy. I mean, they're just one of those teams that can jump up and bite you, so can't take them lightly, that's for sure.
And to round out the 10th game that we have is Colorado at UCLA.
It's the first game we disagree on.
Yeah, we actually were going to agree on it. Originally, I had UCLA. I picked Colorado. Drew's got UCLA. UCLA is actually giving points in this game, which may be the first time that's happened this year, maybe. They're giving 6.5 points playing in the Rose Bowl in L.A. against Colorado. My reasoning for picking Colorado is I mentioned it a while ago because they're one of those kind of middle-of-the-road teams in the Pac-12, but at times they've looked really good.
Yeah.
They've upset some people.
And at the same
Even
time,
when they lost to USC at home last week, I think it was 34
I thought they played really good in that game.
34-31.
Yeah.
Hey, USC is it's a good team. So, anyways, I think Colorado will cover. I think UCLA is going to win the game, though, because UCLA is probably the most improved team in the Pac-12 right now. I mean, they were terrible for the first month and a half.
Yeah.
And now they've gotten pretty good.
Awful.
It was after the second half against Washington State when
They
poured
got
in
some
40
confidence,
or
yeah.
however many they put
It
in.
was insane. I think they scored, 50 points, 52 points or something? Insane. I mean, it was
I don't know.
ridiculous.
But ever since then, I'm not. They hadn't won every game, but ever since then they've been much more competitive, and they've also won some games. So they're definitely not the worst team in the Pac-12, which at one time is pretty easy to peg them as the worst team. So I think it'll be close. I think UCLA will win. I mean, UCLA will win, but it'll be close. But Drew disagrees. He thinks Chip Kelly's got things rolling.
I think this UCLA team will just edge out this 6.5. I think they'll win by 7. I think it'll be like 24-17. They'll win by a touchdown. There will be a couple field goals in there as well that will kind of, might throw off the spread a little bit like toward the end. But I think UCLA will get a touchdown late or something. UCLA has really turned a corner since that Washington State.
Yeah, they have. They were pitiful. I mean, they were an offensive coach's team, and they couldn't score.
Well, and their defense was pitiful.
They were scoring like 7-10 points a game for the first month. I was like, yikes.
And their defense was terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they had to play Oklahoma.
Apparently things are clicking now.
But I think they were getting things on both sides of the ball, like, together.
Yeah.
And I'm not
They're
saying...
one of the more improved teams this year.
Yeah, they are.
As the season went on. Well, guys, let us know what you think on our picks. And like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell because we're going to have at least one more video this week. And we'll be talking to you later. Thanks.
Oh, one more thing. If you see the video and you comment down below, let us know who your playoff picks are at this point in the season. Things are starting to change a little bit. And, for a while there, we had it pegged. Oklahoma was in there. Notre Dame was on the outside looking in. All of a sudden, Oregon was a huge beneficiary in Utah of that Oklahoma loss. And if they keep it rolling, this is going to be a tough week for both teams. They're definitely on upset alert. If they keep it rolling, I mean, the teams in front of them are going to have to lose. One of them will, in some of these games.
I agree.
Pac-12 could end up being in the playoffs. So, anyways,
yeah, that very well could happen.
Y'all let us know what y'all think in y'all's playoffs predictions if you have anything right now. So, anyways, we appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.